surrounded by wrestling fans. Not sports entertainment fans. Professional wrestling fans!
World, look into my eyes. When you see me on a show, when you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world.
This is the Wrestling Matters podcast where we stand up for professional wrestling.
Here we fucking go! Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change! Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up!
Yes! 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 Yes!
That's 13-14!
Dina, I am the best in the world.
'Cause that's the bottom line. 'Cause Stone Cold Simpson.
Lovely people of the wrestling world. That's right, it's your boy, the head Anthony Walker here for another installment of the Wrestling Matters podcast. How are we all doing? Hope you guys are well in whatever it is you are doing, and hope you guys enjoyed the wrestling this week as well. Now, on today's show, we're going to talk Raw, we're going to talk Smackdown, we're going to talk Money in the Bank predictions, we're going to talk TNA, no, we're not going to talk TNA, we're going to talk Ring of Honor, we're going to talk ICW, and NXT as well. Yeah, we're going to talk all of that good stuff today. Now, the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't say TNA rather. I'll get to that in a second. But before I get to that, I might as well tell you and let you know, as I always do each and every week, Swerve Talk Network was where you can find the Wrestling Matters podcast, as well as other great podcasts like Sunday Segway, Offshoot Radio, the Evan McCabe podcast, and Max Wrestling as well, hosted by Daz and the Phoenix himself. So get yourself over there, show them some love, watch, listen, do all that good stuff as well, and enjoy it, guys, because we are the elite of podcasting as well. So that's Max Wrestling, Sunday Segway, Offshoot Radio, and the Evan McCabe podcast. Why? Because Evan McCabe's over as fuck. So get yourself over there, show them some love. And like I said last week, guys, check out Mystery Island, because in August, the monster's coming. That's right, a bit. I can't believe it. Gotta be a big motherfucker, man, and he's gonna be, maybe he'll come to Middlesbrough, I don't know, but he's a fucking tank, and that's big for Mystery Island. And like I said, if you're in the Birkenhead area, 56 to 58 Oxton Road in August, get yourself over there, guys, and meet the monster himself. That's right, the proud member of Decay as well. So get yourself over there and check it out. Also, I want to give a big congratulations out to the Alternative Angle, I hope I said that right, with Josh Dillon and Pepper Brooks as well. They've just reached 100 episodes, so big shout out to you. And like I said to you on Twitter, Josh, next up 200. That's all you can say. Next up 200. And hopefully we can get you on the podcast as well very, very soon. Now, going back to what I was saying, guys, the reason why I didn't say TNA is because TNA seem to be having problems. Each and every week, they're on Tuesdays in America. Each and every week, they always do their shows and everything and put clips up on the TNA YouTube channel. But there was no clips this week. And I got busted on Facebook by a few people and that. It seemed TNA were having technical problems. Technical problems in the ways of, their show not airing. Because they were meant to go live this week, because with it being Slammiversary this past Sunday, so they thought, we'll do a live show and get that out the way. But it didn't air. Now, I don't know if the encore presentation aired, the replay. If I will find the results during this podcast. I'll bring you the other presentation that I will do, the Raw, the Smackdown, the NXT, ICW, Ring of Honor and that. I will bring them to you this week. And while I'm here as well, if I find TNA, I'll bring it to you. I'll just throw it in, and I'll throw it in as well. We'll get that sorted out in there as well. But I don't know if their show aired this week, because it didn't come up on the TNA YouTube channel. So I'll have to find out what's going on in that respects. Yeah, doesn't look good for TNA. Their in-ring product has been good. It's been very good, but and apparently Slammiversary was very good this past week as well, from what I read. But it's a shame they can't control it outside the ring, outside the business, because it's outside of the brand that's falling apart, if you will. Oh, God. I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. And apparently there was up, because their viewership, the Impact Wrestling viewership has come in, and The Impact Wrestling semi-live edition this week, which was a fuck-up, on Pop TV drew over 210,000 total views, according to ShowBizDaily.com. I got that from No DQ. So if I can find the results, I will bring them to you in this podcast. If not, it is what it is, and I probably won't find them no mallet, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think the encore presentation, it says the encore presentation is now, I guess. I don't know. But if I get the results, like I say, guys, I'll bring them to you in this podcast if I get the results. But like I say, it's not my fault. It's TNA's one big cock-up, as you will probably guess. But, it is what it is at the end of the day. So, it is what it is. So like I say, guys, if I get the results, I'll give you to them in this podcast. But with that being said, guys, I will bring you the other usual stuff. The Raw, the Smackdown, the Ring of Honor, the ICW and the NXT. That will be coming in this podcast as well as Money in the Bank predictions as well. That will come. Money in the Bank and Raw will come in part 2. And you know what? If I can, I'll throw in 2 top 10s from What Culture again. This time I will throw in a Money in the Bank one, with it being Money in the Bank, and I'll throw in another one as well. I'll see if I can fit in another one. If I can, I will fit it in next week. If not, I can fit it in today. We'll see. Like I say, it's an action-packed show today, guys, and there's so many things I don't want to go too over the top on this show, guys. So if whatever I don't do this week, I will do next week, guaranteed. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to end this part here. I will be back in part 2 with Raw Money in the Bank predictions, and I'll be back, I'll play the audio that I did this week, and then I'll be back in part 3 with Smackdown and NXT. So with that being said, I'll see you in a bit. Oh, and one more thing as well, the Michael Larkin interview, I'm going to put it up this week in full as the Wrestling Matters Podcast Extra. So it'll be up this week in full on my channels and respective places you can see, like my website, maybe my YouTube channel and SoundCloud. So I'll see you after the break. If you like the Wrestling Matters Podcast, why not check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/WM Podcast and like the page and show your support to the podcast that stands up for professional wrestling, the Wrestling Matters Podcast. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Anthony Walker. Welcome to this very special Wrestling Matters Production Podcast. That's right. My name is Anthony Walker. Like I said, this is the Raw review. The Raw review from Monday Night Raw that took place June 13th. And also in this podcast as well, I'm going to throw in something as well, Money in the Bank predictions. That's right. Money in the Bank predictions. So, hope you guys will stick around. Hope you guys will check this podcast out. Hope you guys will listen. I'm doing this podcast at the moment, guys. Normally, I'm aiming to get back into my Raw review videos that I do for the channel. I am going to do that. I am working towards that, and you will get that very, very soon. I'm going through some changes. I'm doing some changing at the moment and trying to create an environment in where I work and where I produce all this stuff and everything, so I can bring you the Raw reviews on the video thing with my new camera in a more respectful kind of way and with good quality too. So hopefully you guys will enjoy them at the most when I eventually do them. Will I do them on live streams? Who knows? Depends what mood Google Hangouts is in. Because Google Hangouts has been letting me down as of late, and I'm not very happy with that at the moment in time. So that's why I've had to make all these changes, because I want to bring you the best that I can bring you. So with that being said, guys, this is the Raw review. Few little promotions here and there. If you're in the Liverpool area, I didn't mention this on the podcast because I actually forgot about it, but I thought I'll mention it today. If you're in the Liverpool area, get yourself over. TNT Extreme Wrestling presents Big Time 16, or presents Going Off Big Time 2016 at the Fusion, okay? Get yourself over there. TNT Extreme Wrestling. It's at the Fusion in Liverpool. It takes place Saturday, June 18th, 2016, 7 p.m. Until 10:30 You have to be 18 or over, and the last entry is at 8 p.m. So that means that's for any latecomers that are coming down. So you've got to get yourself over there and check it all out, guys. If you're in the area, yeah, get yourself down there. Have yourself a good night of professional wrestling. And like I say, you have to be 18 or over. For more information, go to www.facebook.com/TNT Wrestling or check TNT Wrestling out on Twitter at TNT Wrestling UK. The price, a standard ticket is £10. VIP balcony for 6 people is £80 plus £8.80. I don't know what that is, but all the information, like I said, go to the Facebook and Twitter pages for more information on that. It is TNT Extreme Wrestling presents Going Off Big Time, June 18th at the Fusion in Liverpool. So be sure to go and check all of that out. Now, ladies and gents, it is now time for the Raw review. At OK Raw, for me, OK Raw took place June 13th in New Orleans. It all kicked off with the tag team New Day coming out and, New Day coming out and doing their own thing and, trying to stir things up and that. With the 4 teams that are in the Fatal 4-Way this Sunday. More on that later. And then Big Enzo and Cass come out. Vaudevillains. And then Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And it all went from there into an 8-man tag, which saw Big Enzo, the Big Cass, and Enzo Moore team with the New Day against the Vaudevillains and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. And Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson won that match. That was a good way to kick off the show. A very good way. And yes, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson got the victory for their team. Will they get the victory Sunday? Find out what my prediction is later on. Also, Kane returned to Raw, and it seems that last week Teddy Long was looking to take over SmackDown, or put his name in the hat to take over SmackDown when it goes live July 19th, and it seems that Kane's in the mix as well. Okay, Corporate Kane does not work for me, so please don't make that happen. But anyway, Titus O'Neil was scheduled for a match, and he got jumped by Rusev. Rusev making a statement for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view because he will defend the United States title against Titus O'Neil at the pay-per-view. So obviously making a statement and obviously getting a little bit of revenge in a way, considering what Titus O'Neil's been doing these past couple of weeks. If you're a Rusev fan, he's also been sticking his nose where it don't belong, saving Kalisto. And every time that Rusev's been trying to say that he's the greatest champion of America or cutting a heel promo, he comes out and gets in his face. So I guess you could say that was, if you look at it from Rusev's perspective, that was a little bit of revenge for Rusev. And he has been showing a little dominance on that. I'll talk about that more later on during the predictions. I'll talk about that situation more later on. A Shield reunion, ladies and gentlemen, with the World Heavyweight Champion and his #1 contender appearing on the Ambrose Asylum. Now, as you would guess, this was basically Dean Ambrose stuck in the middle of these two, while these two back and forth gyrate and, build their match up, build the hype up for their match this Sunday. But Ambrose came up with an interesting idea. These two are going to have a match Sunday when it becomes world champion. Will Seth Rollins get his title back, or will Roman reign supreme? But Ambrose came up with an interesting idea, an interesting scenario. What if Dean Ambrose was to win Money in the Bank and he'd cash it in right after, say, Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins won the match? Maybe he'd walk out World Heavyweight Champion. And then it all exploded, and it ended with Dean Ambrose hitting dirty deeds on Roman Reigns, much to the crowd's delight. Right, I'll get to, and also what happened with Dean Ambrose and that led him to a main event match, which I'll get to in a second. I'll get to last because that was the only issue I had with Raw this week, and I'll get to that in a second. Paige defeats the women's champion Charlotte. Is it me or Charlotte losing things right now? It's time, ticking away for the champion as women's champion at the moment. Paige beats her in a non-title match. You've got Becky Lynch and Natalya at ringside laughing it up. Dana Brooks looks like she just saw a ghost. And then, typical Charlotte, she goes backstage and blames Dana for the loss. Typical Charlotte. What will happen Sunday? We'll have to wait and see. I think I think she's in a tag match with Dana against Natalya and Becky Lynch Sunday. I'll get to that later. Sheamus made quick work of Zack Ryder and then attempts to put a beat down on Zack after the match until Apollo Crews comes out and gets in his face. and I mean gets in his face, really takes it to Sheamus. We all know how this turned out, because let's face it, Sheamus is Triple H's best mate, and obviously at some point Triple H asked Sheamus if he could work with him. It's too predictable, isn't it, really? But that should be an interesting match, very interesting match from Apollo's point of view as well. Can he hang with the big bad Sheamus? Like I say, I'll get to the Sami Zayn Cesaro match and the Money in the Bank bit in a second, because this is the only issue I had with Raw this week. John Cena and AJ Styles signed their contract for Money in the Bank, but John had to play the game of one-upmanship with Mr. AJ Styles, because he had 2 contracts out there. One with him in the club. He signed the match with him and John Cena and the club being at ringside, or one just for a one-on-one match, AJ Styles versus John Cena. John Cena basically punked AJ out and called him out on it, which led to AJ signing the one-on-one match contract. So I'm guessing there'll be no club at ringside, and no Gallows and Anderson at ringside. I'm guessing with AJ signing that one-on-one contract, I'm guessing Gallows and Anderson are barred from ringside. But either way, that should be an interesting match. It is a very interesting match. A WrestleMania. I think there's 2 matches on that card, that Money in the Bank card, that are WrestleMania-like matches. I'll get to the Money in the Bank's prediction in a minute. Now, for the big issue I had with Raw this week, there was one issue that I had with Raw this week. And I want you guys, when you check this out, I want you guys to listen to this, because I'm going to go passionate here a little bit, because this was booked pathetically, quite frankly. Before the contract signing, you had Sami Zayn and Cesaro. Now, don't get me wrong, I love their matches in NXT, and that match was no different. And yes, Sami Zayn pulled off a big, huge win over Cesaro going into Money in the Bank. That was a huge win for him. Taking nothing away from that. Then, you had Alberto Del Rio and Kevin Owens go into a little bit of beef backstage. They got into an argument first. And Shane McMahon and Stephanie basically booked them in a tag match against the Lucha Dragons. You book 2 people in a fucking tag match against the Lucha Dragons, who clearly can't get along, somehow win the match, and then after the match, Alberto Del Rio kicks Owens right in the head. They were teasing a one-on-one match between them, and then Shane and Stephanie were like, just put them in a tag match. You can have a tag team. No, actually, it wasn't Shane and Stephanie, actually. I take that back. It was that big red schmuck, Kane. Corporate schmuck, I should say. Kane. And he booked him in a tag match. What the fuck? I wanted to see, quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I wanted to see Kevin Owens one-on-one with Alberto Del Rio. I would have loved to have seen that match. But no, you had to book him in a tag match, which was pointless. Somehow they won the match, and then somehow they won the match, and fucking Del Rio kicks Owens in the head after the match. And then they still get into an argument backstage when friggin' Owens is speaking to Stephanie. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I tell you. And the main event, which was Dean Ambrose against Chris Jericho. The only good thing about that main event was the explosion at the end of it. How many times are we going to see Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho? What you should have done, you would have been best off putting that where Cesaro and Sami Zayn's slot was, and making Cesaro and Sami Zayn the main event. Why would you put a match in a main event that we've already seen? And it wasn't even that good of a main event, because it had all the Money in the Bank people at ringside. It had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on commentary. It had Alberto Del Rio doing timekeeping. And it had Cesaro doing the fucking ring announcing. It was just a pointless way to end Raw. And speaking of ending Raw, it ended with everybody on the outside and Chris Jericho climbing up to get the briefcase and sitting on top of the ladder like a girl holding the briefcase, thinking, will that be the situation this Sunday? Will Jericho win the match? I could probably safe to say that will not happen, because Jericho is not a full-time wrestler anymore. He's there part-time. And I don't see what the benefit is if he does win it, because he'll probably end up losing. But mind you, they put the World Championship on Brock Lesnar, haven't they, before? So it was just a ridiculous booking situation in that respect, and that was the only bad side for Raw for me, because everything else was good, apart from the last 2 matches. Kevin Owens and Alberto Del Rio, that would have been best of being a one-on-one match. And Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho for the umpteenth time. It's pointless. The whole thing was pointless for me. Overall, Raw gets a 3 out of 5 if I'm scoring it out of 5. You know what? No, I'm giving Raw 2.5 out of 5 this time. And I'm going to give out of 10, I would say a 6. That's as good as you're going to get from me. That was the only issue I had with it. the way they booked the Money in the Bank situation. Chris Jericho and Dean Ambrose. I basically turned off that match, quite frankly. I saw the ending of Raw, the whole Sami Zayn jumping onto everybody, brawling outside, and then Chris Jericho climbing up to catch the briefcase. But the main event was just pointless itself. I mean, people do not understand that Chris Jericho is there to put people over. Yes, he's had his big match wins over AJ Styles and that, but him winning Money in the Bank is not, it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. This is my opinion. You might have different opinions on this, guys, but that's just my opinion. The whole thing of it just doesn't make sense. I mean, we have to be realistic here. I know there's a lot of things that we want to see, but are they going to happen? Probably not. Right, let's get into Money in the Bank predictions. We might as well start with the kickoff match. For the 4,444th time, it is Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin, and I hope Baron Corbin wins, quite frankly. I've got nothing against Ziggler. I just want this fucking match, this feud to end, quite frankly, because I've had enough of it. And Apollo Crews against Sheamus in the kickoff as well. And I'm going for Apollo in that one, in that match. So Baron Corbin and Apollo in the kickoff match. Quite frankly, why is that a kickoff match? Put that on the card, at least. I mean, Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin match 4,444th time, which is really getting pointless now, and then you've got Apollo Crews and Sheamus, which would have been better off on the actual show. But anyway, let's get to the main cards matches, which is the US Champion Rusev against Titus O'Neil. And I'm going with Rusev on this one. Are they going to pull the plug or pull the trigger and have Titus O'Neil become US Champion? No. Because what they need to do is make Rusev as dominant as he was the first time around. I've said this before. They need to make him a monster, except this time don't have him one-on-one or go one-on-one with John Cena, because we all know that'll be ruined. Keep him as dominant. He's not a Russian sympathizer that he was the first time around. He is the Bulgarian brute. Keep him that way. Keep the championship on him and have him just dominate people. Obviously, you've got to give him a better competition than Titus O'Neil. Not taking nothing away from Titus. He has stood up to the Bulgarian brute, but you've got to give him more, competitive people. Like a Dean Ambrose, or, maybe a Roman Reigns at some point, or maybe an AJ Styles, or, people like that, people of that caliber at some point. You can't give him people like Titus O'Neil and fucking Darren Young. Don't get me started on Darren Young. I'm not even going to go there with that fucking bullshit with him and Bob Backlund. But anyway, my pick, Rusev for that. Now, the tag team titles, we'll see The New Day versus Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson versus Enzo Amore and Big Cass versus the Vaudevillains. Now, Enzo and Cass got a disqualification win over Vaudevillains, which led Stephanie to book this four-way match. I still stand by what I say. The whole thing doesn't make sense as a fatal four-way. It makes more sense than as a triple threat match, to be honest. It makes more sense as a triple threat. But I have no problem overall with Enzo and Big Cass being involved. My picks to win this, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, because, New Day have had their time. I don't think Enzo and Big Cass are ready for this yet. I mean, they've only just came up. And I don't know where you could leave the Vaudevillains in that. But anyway, I'll leave that up to you guys. I believe the New Day will lose the tag titles, and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson will start their dominant run. And the club will have some gold in their collective group, if you will. So, that leaves Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows to be the new tag team champions. The women's tag team match, which sees Charlotte and Dana Brooke versus Natalya and Becky Lynch. Natalya and Becky Lynch will get their victory. They'll get their measure of revenge. Wow, someone get me some new teeth, please. They'll get their measure of payback on Charlotte and Dana. And like I said, this is just something for Charlotte to do because her other tag team partner, Emma, is on the shelf at the moment. So this is just something for her to do until Emma comes back, which she'll have a long wait because Emma's out for a good 6, maybe 9 months at the most. John Cena and AJ Styles, a match that I'm very much looking forward to. And the C Nation that listens to this is probably going to hate my ass. But I'm picking AJ Styles to win this. Now, I see this match like what happened last year. I believe it was last year, when John Cena fought Kevin Owens. John Cena put over Kevin Owens in the match, okay? John Cena put over Kevin Owens. So I see this as another match like that, except this, these two will have a match here at Money in the Bank. John Cena will get his rematch and probably win a Battleground. And then they'll have an epic match on Raw, or maybe another match at SummerSlam. I don't know, but I think there's already plans for John Cena at SummerSlam anyway, so I can't see that happening. But yeah, I think AJ Styles needs to win this match. He needs to win this match. It benefits AJ more than it does John Cena winning, because we all know that's going to happen eventually. No matter what happens, we all know that will happen eventually. John Cena will end up winning the match, because if they put him up, if AJ wins the match at Money in the Bank, which I'm predicting he will, he's going to win the match. Cena will win the match probably at Battleground, which is in July. So either way, it's interesting. It is. It's very, very interesting indeed. But in terms of benefit, it benefits more that AJ Styles should beat Cena at the pay-per-view. Give him the match that they did. Give him the 101 match. Give him the match, and then at Battleground, give him his 101 rematch. Give Cena his 101 rematch and have him win. It benefits that way. That's just my opinion on that one. But either way, I can't see AJ winning this feud. I hate to say that, but I can't see AJ very much winning this feud, quite frankly. But AJ should win the match at Money in the Bank, and that's my prediction. AJ Styles winning the match at Money in the Bank. If John Cena wins, then what people have been saying is probably true, and that is, AJ Styles is being buried, quite frankly. That's just my take on that one. Like I say, these are my opinions, guys. I'm not always right. I could be wrong. But overall, my prediction, AJ Styles should win this match. You've got the ladder match, which sees Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Cesaro, Alberto Del Rio, and Sami Zayn. I think, considering I'm going based on what I've read and what I've heard, my prediction to win this is Kevin Owens. Okay? This is what I've heard. Okay? Kevin Owens, and he looks like to be aiming to go for a World Championship match at SummerSlam. That's what I've heard. I could be wrong about this. They might go a different route. We'll find out Sunday, definitely. But we've got a different route. If they do, then Kevin Owens will not win. But I have heard through dirt sheets and the grapevine, if you will, that Kevin Owens will be the winner and will get a World Championship match at the SummerSlam pay-per-view. Now, question is with this, guys, is will he be getting that championship in the normal stature? Will he, earn a title shot on Raw at some point leading into SummerSlam so he can get that World Championship? Or the other question is, will he get it by, cashing in his contract? He wouldn't be the first person to cash in his contract at SummerSlam anyway, because the original plan from what I heard was John Cena one-on-one with Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. But again, this is from what I've read, guys. I could be wrong. But John Cena, rather, and the Roman Reigns match is being held back for WrestleMania. So that leaves a spot open if that's the case. Will Kevin Owens be that guy to go into SummerSlam to get that World Championship match? And the question is, how will he get it if that's the case? Will he get it as a normal, like earning it on Raw or something during a match, like a number one contenders match? Or will he get it by, cashing in Money in the Bank? All these different dynamics. But there was another issue that was, like I said, that was brought up on Raw that I mentioned earlier, which I'll get to in a second. But my prediction to win this match is Kevin Owens. But let's go to that scenario. What if Dean Ambrose wins it? If Dean Ambrose wins it, could he? If Dean Ambrose fucking wins it, I wouldn't be too disappointed, let me tell you. But if Dean Ambrose wins it, will he cash it in on Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins for World Championship match? And will he walk out World Champion instead? It's all these different dynamics. But like I said, going back to what I was saying, prediction, Kevin Owens to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. In terms of the World Championship match, I know people want to see Seth Rollins win the championship. They want to see Seth Rollins get his title back. I would have saved this match and built it in. I would have had this match at SummerSlam, quite frankly. But I think they've booked this match so Roman Reigns can win against Seth Rollins and put an end to all this. Seth Rollins couldn't get his title back, and Roman Reigns has beaten him for the championship. So my prediction overall is Roman Reigns to win. I know people are going to hate that. People are going to hate it. Roman Reigns to win this match at Money in the Bank, but I know people want to see Seth Rollins get his title back, and they don't want to see this match with Roman Reigns, the title run with Roman Reigns continue. So overall prediction is Roman Reigns to win. And that about wraps it up for this, guys. This Money in the Bank Bank predictions and the Raw review as well. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hopefully, I will do a Money in the Bank review via video. I'll have my camera ready and everything. Hopefully I'll have it done by Sunday. If not, I'll give you another podcast. So, that's the best I can do at this moment in time until I get things sorted out, because I'm doing a lot of changes in my stuff as well. And I want to bring you the best reviews that I can bring on that channel as well. If I can live stream them, I will. I probably will be able to live stream them. We'll have to wait and see though. But I want to do it in good quality though. So I'll have to figure out a way to use my camera if that's the case. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. If you listen to this on YouTube, like, share. If you're new around the Wrestling Matters channel, please subscribe. It'll be greatly appreciated. There's a lot more of this to come on that channel as well. The channel is going in a different direction at the moment. I'm adding new stuff and trying to beef it up as best I can as well. So if you're interested in what you see on that channel and you like what you see, feel free to subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated, and your support matters to me, and there's a lot of good stuff coming to that channel as well very, very soon. And the only way you'll get to keep up to date with it is if you subscribe to that channel. Also, check this out on SoundCloud as well, soundcloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast. Also, check out my website, guys, where you can hear this as well, which will be theheadanthonywalker.net and theheadanthonywalker.wix.com. And until next time, guys, for another installment of the Wrestling Matters Podcast, episode 116, which will take place this coming Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to this Raw review and Money in the Bank predictions. I'll be back with a review of Money in the Bank at some point next week, hopefully straight after the pay-per-view. And until then, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to listen. My name is Anthony Walker. Wrestling matters, as it always and should be. Thanks for listening. Ta-ra!
There's only one wrestling podcast that gives you honest, uncut opinions and the most unique trivia since WWE did The Weakest Link. And the only place you can hear the show-stealing podcast promo every single week.
Covering WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground. Matt's Wrestling Podcast is the place for you. Join myself, Evan Money Michaela, the Phoenix, and the Butcher. Sundays at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern time with your host, Daddy Big Sleep, on VOC Nation and the Swerve Talk Network.
Go to matchwrestling.wix.com/matchwrestling or follow us at matchwrestlinguk for more details.
Give in to the madness.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shubs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Matters Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the Michael Larkin final part. Hope you enjoyed the Raw review and the Money in the Bank predictions as well. So, with that being said, guys, let's get into it. Smackdown and NXT. So let's check out the full results. I won't go into them in too much detail, but I will talk about a certain something on NXT, which I'll get to in a second. Right, Smackdown kicked off this week with highlight reel proves to be all about the money, which is, I'm guessing everybody was on the highlight reel and it all kicked off. Kofi Kingston defeats Big Cass, Luke Gallows, and Aiden English in a four-way match building into their tag team title match at the pay-per-view. Baron Corbin beats Zack Ryder. Kalisto and Rusev ends in a no contest. No doubt Titus O'Neil probably got involved in that. I'll check that in a second. Charlotte beats Natalya. AJ Styles beats Xavier Woods. Dean Ambrose, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn defeat Chris Jericho, Alberto Del Rio, and Kevin Owens in a six-man tag. Again, building into the pay-per-view, because like I said, it's all about Money in the Bank. So let me just check something. Kalisto ends in a no contest. Yeah, not a surprise in there, because it was Titus O'Neil that got involved in the match, so I'm not surprised with that. Now, I want to move on to NXT, because I heard a rumor after NXT TakeOver that it was going to be built into, I believe it was NXT in Brooklyn, Shinsuke Nakamura against Finn Balor one-on-one. And it seems it's going to go down, because on NXT's show this week, the matches were the Authors of Pain defeat local competitors. That's Paul Ellering's new tag team. Carmella defeats Tessa Blanchard. TM-61 defeat Blake and Murphy. Andrade Almas, I hope I said that right, defeats Ty Dillinger in a rematch from TakeOver. And Shinsuke Nakamura challenges Finn Balor. So it seems that the match is going to take place. Now, where it will take place, I don't know. But it seems that Finn Balor, Nakamura is on. I can't wait for that. I would imagine it's going to be saved, though, guys. Rumor has it it's going to be saved for NXT in Brooklyn at SummerSlam in August, so we'll have to wait and see. Surely they can't put it on a TV show. It is a pay-per-view match, quality match, so you can't really put that on the TV show, quite frankly. So I'm guessing they'll be saving it for NXT in Brooklyn this coming August, and I'm guessing that will be Finn Balor's last show in NXT, surely. Motherfucker should be on the main roster by now, but anyway. But with that being said, guys, hope you've enjoyed that. That was NXT and Smackdown, and coming up after the break, it'll be ICW and Ring of Honor, and then after that, it'll be 2 top 10s and possibly TNA's results as well. I don't know. Like I say, if I don't bring you the results this week, guys, I'll bring it to you next week as well. Hopefully when TNA's back in track again. Some things never change, do they? Anyway, I'll be back after this. If you like the Wrestling Matters Podcast, why not follow the Wrestling Matters Podcast now on Twitter at WM Podcast for all professional wrestling news. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Matters Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I have some good news for you. I have found the TNA results. I'll give you them in a second. I will change ICW to the next part as well. I don't think there was a fight the Night Fight Club, but there is a show that I will talk about for ICW as well that is already up on the on-demand service, which you can check out. Now, I'll do that next part though. Right now, it is now TNA. We're going to give you the TNA results, what happened in that clusterfuck of a show. Or what turned out to be in a production-wise value anyway, from television and everything. But before we do that, let's talk about Ring of Honor. Now, Ring of Honor had certain things that went down. A confrontation between Jay Briscoe and Roderick Strong, building into their match at Best in the World, June 24th. And it kicked off with Nato, the IWGP, or IGWP, if you might call, IWGP Heavyweight Champion, facing the big man and a reported signee of WWE. I'll get to that in a second as well. From what I'm hearing, he's going to WWE. Moose, the big man. Moose and Nato had a good match, very good match, which ended with something that probably Moose and Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe. Is it Mark Briscoe? The chicken guy. Yeah, Mark Briscoe. I apologize if I said Jay. More on Jay later in a second. But Mark Briscoe at ringside reportedly commentated it right, and he was spot on. Nato slaps the piss out of Moose, gets fired up, takes one shot, misses, and Nato finishes him off with his finishing move to win the match. That's what should have happened in the first place. Don't get me wrong, Moose put up a good fight, but he's got a lot to learn, especially when you're going up against a star from Japan, a star being the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Next match was Cheeseburger teaming with his mentor and friend, Juice and Thunder Liger, and they went up against the All Night Express. Now, obviously, All Night Express dominated this match and won, but what I want to know is, what the fuck is Ring of Honor doing? It seems that Ring of Honor is copying the segments with WWE, what they're doing with Darren Young and Bob Backlund, because they're doing it exactly the same with the All Night Express, make wrestling great again. It seems that wrestling promotions nowadays seem to love copying, especially in America, seem to love copying Donald Trump. Jesus Christ. But anyway, the All Night Express managed to get a win by pinning Cheeseburger, and that was the end of that. The main event was the main attraction of the whole show, and what made this show great. And if you haven't seen this main event, or you haven't seen this show, please go and find it. It is on ringofhonorwrestling.com. Just go and watch their TV show just to see this main event. It was Kushida versus Kyle O'Reilly. Apparently the last time these two met was in a tournament and Kushida beat him. These two literally beat the hell out of one another. Scientific wrestling at its blatant best. Go and find it. And Kyle O'Reilly managed to out-wrestle Kushida to get the win 1-2-3. Go and find this match. If you haven't seen it, go and find it. It was just unbelievable. unbelievable. Words can't describe how good this match was, guys. You have to see it for yourself. It was absolutely great, and you know what? I may go and watch it again because it was absolutely awesome. And Kyle O'Reilly manages to get the victory. Now, that's the end of Ring of Honor. 5 out of 5 all around because it was a good show just for that main event alone. Now we'll get to TNA. Now, I'll get to the matches. Opening segment of TNA saw all led into a TNA King of the Mountain title match involving Jeff Hardy going one-on-one with Eli Drake, and Jeff Hardy wins by DQ, which means Eli Drake's still the champion. Also, TNA X Division title was on the line. I think all 4 titles were on the line, to be honest with you. There was like an all 4 title show, quite frankly. Not bad for a live show that wasn't even live, or semi-live, if you will. The X Division title was on the line against with Eddie Edwards defending against Trevor Lee, and Eddie Edwards retained the title. Decay defeats Mahal Bashira and Grado, the Tribunal, and Bromance to retain the tag titles. God help TNA if Mahal Bashira and Grado become tag team champions. That's all I'm saying on that one. But Decay retain. And Lashley beat Drew Galloway in Drew's rematch to retain the title. And next week sees 6 Sides of Steel involving Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy. A few little segments here and there. Maria running her mouth off and, throwing her weight around, much to the dismay of Billy Corgan and one Dixie Carter, who ends up slapping her in the mouth. Yeah, slapping Maria in the mouth. Proper bitch slap and all. Also, Gail Kim is in the TNA Hall of Fame as well, if I remember that. Yep, Gail Kim announced for the TNA Hall of Fame. Because let's face it, that's the only Hall of Fame she's going to be getting into, because I can't see her being in the WWE Hall of Fame anytime soon. So, if you can't be in the WWE, you might as well be in the TNA one. But all in all, that was what got 210,000 views as well, according to that report that I gave earlier on. So there you go, guys. I'll give you the TNA results, and I also give you the Ring of Honor results. And after the break, I will talk ICW as well. I've already talked about the other bits as well, haven't I? I'm just making sure I've got everything in order. I will talk ICW. I will throw in 2, not 1, but 2, WhatCultureWrestling.com's top 10. I might throw one in after I've talked about ICW in the next part. We'll see how that turns out. I might save it for the next part after that. We'll see how it goes. But I'm definitely talking about ICW next. And then I want to talk about what I just gave a little hint to there. WWE reportedly signing 4 indie talents. So, you want to know about that? You want to know more about that? You have to wait and see. Stay tuned for the rest of the podcast, because we ain't done yet, guys. See you in a bit. If you like the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/WM podcast and like the page and show your support to the podcast that stands up for professional wrestling, the Wrestling Matters podcast. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Matters podcast. Now, ICW seemed to have not had its Friday Night Fight Club this week. Must be taking a little quick time out. So I'm going to talk about something that happened, I believe, in January, because it was an old one. Because, well, it was old. It was an old one because it was before January and the New Age Clique was still together. So let's go through it right now. It was the ICW John Hartson Foundation. Now, John Hartson, yes, the football player that used to play for Arsenal and West Ham and was a Wales international at one point in his career as well, has been suffering from testicular cancer. There's a foundation going around, and ICW, the gracious suds that they are, and the beautiful people that they are, decided to put on a show for the John Hartson Foundation, and this was it. ICW John Hartson Foundation show. It kicked off with Polo Promotions in a 6-man tag against the New Age Clique, which was Wolfgang, BT Gunn, and Stevie Boy, and the New Age Clique came down into defeat, which I believe from what I saw was the seed for their demise, quite frankly, because they had an argument after the match about how they lost. But Polo Promotions, Mark Coffey, Jackie Polo, and DCT get the victory. Also, there was a match involving Lionheart, the current ICW Zero G champion, and he faced the then champion Davey Boy. And then obviously it's at Square Go, he manages to get the match and get the belt at the Square Go pay-per-view. I believe it was Square Go or Baron Mania. I'm not quite sure. It was one of them, but I'm pretty sure it was Square Go. I might be wrong on that. If I am, I apologise. So, yeah, and thanks to a little bit of help from Wee Man, hitting Lionheart with the belt, Davey retains the championship by hitting Lionheart with speed to get the 1, 2, 3. Kenny Williams was also in action, and he went one-on-one with Mikey Whiplash in what was a great match, and so Kenny Williams getting a huge win. A big win of Mikey Whiplash. Then it was on to another great match involving Joe Coffey and one Chris Renfrew, and which saw Chris Renfrew get the victory. Yes, you heard me correct. And he did it impressively, I've got to admit. He outsmarted and outthought and in a way out-wrestled the big man, and one mistake from Joe Coffey, he falls right into a stunner and gets the and Renfrew gets the victory. Very impressed. And yes, just when you thought we can go one night without him, the biggest cunt in ICW, Red Lightning. I don't know what the guy's like in real life in terms of outside of the ring, but in ICW, he is a complete cunt and a complete wanker, as they would say. Red Lightning went one-on-one with Grado, but it kind of switched in to the point of where it ended up being a tag match. Thanks to Mark Dallas, it ended up being a tag match, which saw Jack Jester teaming with Red Lightning versus Grado and his partner, Damo, the current ICW Heavyweight Champion. And, oh boy, oh boy, did they, while Red Lightning was ranting around the ring like a little pussy because of the big Damo being involved, and yes, Grado and Damo got the victory in that match. So if you want to see this full show, guys, and get a better perspective of it, go and watch it. It's on ICW On Demand service as well. Get yourself on there if you have not subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, why haven't you? You missed a lot out, man. For real. Top 2 on-demand services, in my opinion, at this point in time, is Progress Wrestling and ICW. So that's just my opinion on that. Now, since... how long have we got here? You know what? Fuck it. Let's get into it. Let's go to the very first of 2 top 10s, guys. One is on Money in the Bank, and this one I found from What Culture Wrestling, as always. You gotta love What Culture. And yeah, it was I think they did the top 10 botches in WWE's history, so they decided to do top 10 worst botches in WCW's history. So let's see. We all know there was a lot of botches that went around in WCW. One was at number 10, involving a 3-way dance involving 3 women on Nitro, and I remember this very well. Tigress, Major Guns, and I believe it was, if I remember correctly, I know it had Tigress, and I know it had Major Guns in it. It had, what do I call it? Booker T's wife, I forgot. Sharmell, that's it. And I believe Sharmell was the other one that was involved in this. And first move of the match, which was a kind of a roll-up involving Tigress and Major Guns. So, I mean, Tigress hits her with the elbow, rolls her up, and gets the 1, 2, 3, and that was it. Just right there and then. And then after the match, Tigress and Sharmell beat the hell out of Major Guns. That was it, basically. That was probably the most botched match in terms of women's wrestling in WCW. Next one was, number 9 was Savage almost kills Charles Robinson. Now, this was a match involving Lil H and Ric Flair, who was then the heel referee, and always stuck it up for the 4 Horsemen. It saw Charles Robinson teaming with Ric Flair versus Medusa and Macho Man Randy Savage. And some bright spark came up with an idea to have Charles Robinson take the finish of Macho Man Randy Savage. Now, you have to bear in mind, guys, Charles Robinson was not a trained wrestler. He was a referee, okay? But some bright spark came up with the idea, let's put him in the ring and have him take probably Macho Man's finish. Now, I can't stress this enough. If you can't take a finish, if you're not trained enough to take someone's finish, you're going to get hurt, as Mr. Robinson did in this match, because broken ribs, a fractured vertebrae, and punctured lung were the results of Robinson taking the Macho Man elbow. Yeah, speaks for itself, doesn't it? Number 8 was the Fireball. Oh boy. Probably the worst match in WCW's history, based off probably what was one of Hulk Hogan's greatest matches in WWE's history, which was the title for title main event match at WrestleMania 1990, which was WrestleMania 6, involving the Warrior and Hogan. But some bright spark in WCW came up with the idea, let's do the rematch. Let's give the rematch and let Hogan get a win and get his revenge. It was a waste of time because it was the worst match ever, and there was a segment in the match where Hogan tried to fireball the Warrior, and let's say he basically set fire to himself. That's how bad it was. If you go back and watch it, you'll understand why. It was just the worst match in WCW's history, and quite frankly, I think Bischoff said it best. You could smell how much it stank from down the road, from the building. The other superstar shooting star press was in number 7. Now, it wasn't the one where Brock Lesnar almost killed himself at WrestleMania 19. That was in WWE. That wasn't WCW. It was Kidman, obviously Kidman, in WCW, of course, costing or injuring Vampiro, I believe. Actually, no, it wasn't Vampiro. He Steven Regal. But the problem was, he actually injured himself. He meant to do the move on Steve Regal there, and let's just say it didn't work out for him, which was probably karma in a way, if you look back on it now, considering what happened with him when he nearly killed Chavo. So he tried to do it on Steve Regal on the WCW Nitro show, and let's just say he paid for it, because he messed it up. I'm trying to think about that as well. Number 6 was probably every Sid Justice promo, every Sid Vicious's promo. One in particular, which saw him on WCW Monday Nitro, having a talk trash moment with the Outsiders. The Outsiders called him out on his dumbness, if you will, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. And Sid replied with, "I know that you're only half the man that I am, and I have half the brain you do." I'll let that speak for itself, guys. Justice was good at many things. Vicious was good at many things. Promos weren't. I'll give you a couple of examples other than that. Number 5 was Cactus Jack losing an ear. Yes, the old Cactus Jack missing an ear incident happened in WCW because it was in Germany. I believe it was Berlin, Germany, I believe it was. He used to get hanged up with his neck in between the top and middle rope. He did it in WCW in this match with Vader, and they tried to get, pull him open and everything, and somehow his ear fell off. So, Cactus Jack has lost many things, but he didn't think he'd lose his ear. Cactus Jack being Mick Foley, of course. Now, I don't agree with number 4 here. I've even commented this on the actual channel itself. I made a comment about this on the channel as well. Nick Patrick botches the biggest event in WCW's history. Now, that's not what I heard. Yes, obviously, the match itself played a part, but from what I got, this was Sting and Hogan 1997 Starrcade, by the way, because we all know what happened. Mick Patrick counted to 3. It was a clean count despite the Hogan tights and everything, and Hogan won the match, or so we thought. Bret Hart came down and restarted the match, punching Nick Patrick in the process, and then Sting loses win, which all led to Super Brawl. What I don't understand is how, Nick Patrick was to blame. Maybe he was, I don't know. I don't know the full story, but from what I heard from Bischoff said that it was Hogan. And I think I did something about this before on one of my previous podcasts, mentioning Hogan and how much Hogan reportedly has been a dick to people in the wrestling business. Apparently, all the build-up that we had going into this match, and then Hogan apparently didn't want to lose the match, which is what should have happened anyway, but Hogan didn't want to lose the match to Sting. That's what I heard, okay? Like I say, I could be wrong, but that's what I heard. That's what I got from the whole thing. And I think even Bischoff said that on a few occasions as well. And I'm pretty sure I did it on one of my previous episodes of the podcast as well, when I talked about Hogan, and how much of a dick he was, like I said. But I don't think Nick Patrick had anything to do with it. I think it was mainly Hogan not wanting to job to Sting, or do the job for Sting. I put Sting over in that match. I think that was the real reason. I might be wrong. War Culture might be right, but that's what I heard anyway. But we all know, at the end of the day, no matter what, it was a clusterfuck. Number 3 was Goldberg ending Bret Hart's career. Yes, he did, ladies and gentlemen. 1999 Starrcade. A match involving Bill Goldberg and Bret Hart. Bret bounces off the ropes, runs right into a super kick from Bret, or super kick from Goldberg, rather. And Bret didn't protect himself, and you can see it when you go back and watch the footage. Basically, Goldberg kicked him right in the head. Now, usually when you take a kick from somebody, you put your hand up to protect yourself, okay? You put your hand up to protect yourself, and I think the boot is supposed to go onto your hand, make it look like you actually took the kick on the chin. Unfortunately, Bret didn't do that, and the boot landed on Bret's head, which gave him a career-ending injury, and not only that, a couple of years later, caused him to have a stroke. Yeah, that's just the way it was. Another one of WCW's beautiful moments, or botched moments, if you will. Number 2 was Sid Vicious breaking his leg at WCW Sin. I can't describe it, guys. You're going to have to watch it yourself. He goes up on the second rope, looks to do a move. He jumps down, and you could see it for yourself. His leg just snapped. The minute he dropped down, his leg just snapped. Right there, right then. Unbelievable. And you could see it because, I believe it was his ankle. You could see it was out of place as well. And it even made you sick. It even made you sick as well made a few people sick. It didn't make me sick because I'm not that squeamish, but it was horrible. And like I say, you can watch that on the WWE Network as well and see for yourself. Number 1 was the Shockmaster. Yeah, Dusty Rose's brainchild. Rest in peace, Dusty Rose. But yeah, and I believe the guy who was the Shockmaster was Typhoon and Tugboat in WWE. I think we all know, we've all heard a lot about it, so I won't go into too much detail. And there you have it. That was the very first top 10. Coming up after the break, I'll give you number 2 of the top 10, which is, since it's all Money in the Bank, to do with Money in the Bank. So stay tuned.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 6th and final part of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast. I'm going to end this podcast in this part. I'm going to do my usual stuff and everything, and I'm going to end with the top 10 of Money in the Bank as well. Best Money in the Bank cash-ins, because it's Money in the Bank. Let me get a few things first before I do that. Also, get the promotions out the way. Like I say, guys, please check out Swerve Network, Max Wrestling Podcast with Daz and Craig Phoenix and co. as well. Shout out to Mr. Evan McCaber as well. Please check him out. Please check the others as well. Offshoot Radio, Sunday Segway, all on the Swerve Talk Network each and every weekend. All the links will be in the description below. Please check them out. Show them some love because they do good shows. And that's why I'm on board as well, because we're all the elite. Also, don't forget Monster on the Island in August as well. Mystery Island, please check that out as well. All the links to all of them will be in the description below. I want to talk about a few things before I get to the top 10. According to CageSeat.com, the website, and I'll leave the link in the description below, guys. According to them, it seems that WWE has reportedly signed for indie stars. Okay, again, this is just a report. One of them is already going to be working with WWE because he'll be in the Cruiserweight tournament that's in July as well. Apparently, they've signed with WWE, according to the website. And the 4 people that have reportedly signed are Noam Dar. We all knew Noam Dar would be in that somehow anyway, because he is in the Cruiserweight Classic in July, I believe it is. The Cruiserweight tournament that it's in July, so we all know he would probably maybe end up getting a deal. Who knows? And like I say, guys, these are just reports as well. And the other 3 people as well are Tommy End. Those of you that might know him from ICW and the Samaritan Death Squad as well with Progress Wrestling. Apparently he's signed with WWE as well. Tommy End, Dutch guy, great wrestler, lethal with his kicks, and he's reported to have signed with WWE as well. WWE, the other 2 apparently are Moose from Ring of Honor as well. He's reportedly signed because he was hanging around Orlando, the NXT arena before TakeOver, and also ICW Heavyweight Champion Damo was spotted in a tryout during a recent European tour as well. And like I say, the other 2 were Dutchman, Tommy End, who has apparently said goodbye to his German promotion, and Noam Dar is also headed there because of, like I say, he's going to be in the Cruiserweight Classic, but he could be there full time. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Like I say, guys, it's interesting what's going to happen, especially that since the brand split is coming in July as well. So maybe there's room for these guys. We shall see. Apparently, they've all been signed to developmental contracts. Wow, that's not easy to say as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, these are just rumors. I'll leave the website. It's CagesideSeats.com, and I'll leave the link in the description for you guys to have a read with it. Whether you listen to this on SoundCloud or YouTube, or my website, or even the Swerve Talk Network website as well. So be sure to check all of that out. Let's get into it, guys. Let's get into the top 10 Money in the Bank cash-ins, and then this will be the end of the podcast. So, top 10 Money in the Bank cash-ins, according to WhatCulture.com. All the credit in the world. And by the way, big shout out to WhatCulture.com, because Damian Sandow is coming to WCPW in July tapings as well at the end of July, which is July 27th and 28th as well, and 26th they're going to be a Q&A in London, so I believe it's London, but there's going to be a Q&A on July 26th, I know that. I'll leave any information that I can get in the description below. But number 10 on the cash-ins, guys, was Daniel Bryan's cash-in at TLC, even though he promised he'd do it at Mania. But Daniel Bryan's cash-in at TLC in the chairs match involving Big Show and Mark Henry. Now, as they correctly said, it wasn't the best chairs match ever, and to be honest, Daniel Bryan saved the match, basically. It took him 7 seconds to cash it in. He walks out World Heavyweight Champion, the very first person from the NXT to be the Heavyweight Champion or to win a world title, which people followed on with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and whatever. And yeah, much to Michael Cole's chagrin as well. Obviously back then he was a heel and he hated Daniel Bryan, and that I think ruined his night because Daniel Bryan walked out with the World Heavyweight title. Only a couple of months later at WrestleMania, he was in the very first match of WrestleMania, I believe, and he lost it 18 seconds to Sheamus. But all of that was great because he eventually got his moment at WrestleMania when he ended up beating Triple H, Batista, and Randy Orton in the same night. Triple H in a single match, Randy Orton and Batista in a triple threat match. So, number 9, if I remember correctly from this. Now, I'm going to go into big detailed on this as well. Number 9 was Kane and Rey Mysterio for Money in the Bank 2010. Now, Kane won Money in the Bank on that night, and obviously Rey Mysterio retained the title that night as well, and this was Kane's very first major run with the championship, unless you count that one night stand he had with the WWE title back in '98. But he had a good run with this, a very good run with this, and he cashed it in on Rey Mysterio the same night he won it at Money in the Bank 2010 to have a very good run and have a good feud with the Undertaker as well during that period of time. He never had a proper World Championship. They obviously didn't count the ECW title considering how that turned out, even though he was ECW champion. But yeah, he had a proper good run with the World Championship. And like I say, he had a great match, or great feud with his brother, which involved Paul Bear. Anyway, speaking of The Undertaker, Edge and The Undertaker from Smackdown. Now, I think Edge was on Raw at this point, and they had a big feud with Batista going on, The Undertaker that is, and then he obviously won the cage match. Mark Henry came out and beat him up and everything, and Edge cashed in and won the title. It was as simple as that, really. Much to the shocking chagrin of Michael Cole, and obviously JBL was on board with it. But Undertaker ended up making his life a living hell leading in, and obviously it all ended at SummerSlam when he went through the ring, and then for some strange reason the fire came up from the ring. I'll always remember that. I'll never forget that moment. Anyway, next one was from Raw, June 30th, right after Judgment Day pay-per-view, CM Punk versus Edge. Now, Edge the previous night retained the title on Dave Batista, I believe it was, in the cage at Judgment Day, and he came on to Raw that night gloating that he was going to take the world title to SmackDown. But Edge came out, ran his mouth. I think he chased JR away at one point as well. I think he disrespected JR at that point. Batista came out, chased him around the ring, beat the living dog out of him, and then CM Punk comes out, cashes in, and Raw has the World Championship. So it was as easy as that, really. The next one was CM Punk, Jeff Hardy at Extreme Rules. Jeff Hardy beat Edge in a ladder match at Extreme Rules 2009, only to see CM Punk walk down the aisle and cashing in on him, which led to CM Punk turning heel, and obviously him and Hardy doing business because Hardy left a couple of months later anyway to go to TNA, and also built in Straight Society as well from it. But like I say, Jeff Hardy ended up leaving a couple of months later going to TNA, and we all know how that ended up. Victory Road, Sting anyone? Drugged. Anyway, moving on. The next one was Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio from Raw April 8th in 2013, and I think he held the title. He held it for 1 full year, and we all thought he was going to cash it in. We all knew it was after WrestleMania. We all thought, is he ever going to cash this in? Is he ever going to cash this in? Well, during the Jack Swagger Alberto Del Rio match, Alberto retained the title, only to have Dolph Ziggler walk down the aisle and cash it in on him, much to the chagrin and much to the delight of everybody in that crowd. And Dolph ended up walking out with the world title, only to drop it. I believe only to drop it because he got an injury from, I believe, was Jack Swagger as well. I don't know. But I mean, credit to Alberto. He did put up a fight in the match, but it was not gonna, it wasn't gonna go down that way. Dolph ended up walking out with the title. Next one is One Night Stand 2006, Rob Van Dam 101 with John Cena. Now this all started on Raw, and that WrestleMania, this is why WWE should put Money in the Bank back on at WrestleMania, quite frankly. But anyway, Rob Van Dam won the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, and then he cashed it in on John Cena, but he wasn't going to cash it in on a WWE show. He ended up cashing it in on John Cena at ECW, which was great. The WWE's ECW, that is. It was great up until the point where it ended up being at December to Dismember, and then after that, it all went downhill, didn't it? And then, like I said, Cena in a hostile ground. Van Dam wins it, thanks to Edge, by the way, because Edge speared Cena through the table. Rob, for a couple of months, walks around with the ECW and WWE Championship belts simultaneously, and he ends up losing the WWE title to Edge in a triple threat match a couple of months later on Raw. Yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on, the next one is Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan from SummerSlam 2013. Daniel Bryan beat John Cena with Triple H's special guest referee, and I think he beat him cleanly too, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but he beat him anyway, and Daniel Bryan walked out with the championship, or so we thought. And then Randy Orton comes out, goes to cash in the belt, and then Triple H turns on Daniel Bryan, pedigrees him, and then Randy Orton, cashes in, gets the belt, birthed the Authority, I suppose, in that respects. The next one is Edge and John Cena at New Year's Revolution. I believe this was the very first cash-in of this whole Money in the Bank concept. This was the very first cash-in. John Cena went through 5 other guys in the Elimination Chamber: Carlito, Chris Masters, Kane, Kurt Angle, and Shawn Michaels. And we all thought he'd retain the title, only to have Edge come out and cash it in and win the belt and win his first WWE Championship. But it meant nothing, didn't it, ladies and gentlemen, because that WWE Championship run was cut short at the Royal Rumble when Cena ended up winning the belt back. Yeah, but I guess that was the start of the big feud that they had that year. Anywho, moving on swiftly. The next number one, and it is number one, guys. The next one is number one, and that was Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania 31, pulling off the biggest heist after Roman and Brock ended up having a brother versus brother match on Raw with the whole belt. No, your belt, not my belt. No, my belt, not my belt. Probably one of the worst endings to Raw I've ever seen in my life. But Seth Rollins put an end to it, even though Roman did put up a fight and put up a good match against Brock, because everybody thought Brock was going to kill him. Seth Rollins came out, curb stomped Roman Reigns, took away his dream, and which all is going to lead to their match at Money in the Bank coming up. Well, you've probably seen it as this is going out. So with that being said, guys, that is the end of that top 10. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, wherever you are listening to this, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. And until next time, guys, bye.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Professional wrestling, this is it. This is us standing up.
Yes, 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 yes!
That's 13-14. Make it till death.
Cena, I am the best in the world.
'Cause that's the bottom line. 'Cause Stone Cold Simpson.